G'day guys and welcome back to another episode of the Bradley J. Dryburgh Experience, the future #1 podcast in the world. It is your host Bradley J. Dryburgh, but you can call me Brad and by now you know the drill. If you're a fan of the show, I'm a fan of yours because it's you guys that keeps this alive and thriving, and I want to say thank you so much for that. You can continue to show your support by hitting the all-important follow or subscribe button, leaving a 5-star rating and a raving review on Apple Podcast app to ensure that we continue to grow and reach a new audience, inspiring new individuals every day. That's what I'm here to do. Today's guest is a really exciting one for me. I'm on this running journey myself, and this man has been on a running journey for 8 years. You may know him on Instagram as 300 Pounds and Running. He's the founder of Slow as Fuck Run Club. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from San Francisco, California, it's Mr. Martinus Evans.
Somewhere unseen, it got a little longer, so it seems.
Brad, what's up, man? What's up?
Mate, it's great to have you here. It's like I was saying, back in June, I think we first connected, and I remember coming across you on, I think it was something like Lad Bible or something like that on Facebook. There was a little story about you, and I loved it, dude, because you were just bouncing with energy. There was so much going on in that video that, there was a story of the overcoming of the odds, and a lot of ways that I felt like your story connected with mine, but on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to kick this off with something I heard you say, and it's where your running journey began. And I loved it because, 24 years ago, I was born with cystic fibrosis, and 24 years ago, my parents were told by a doctor some negative news that if they were sitting there and taking that on and took that on as gospel, my life would have gone in a different direction. But they decided to forget that negative mindset and that one individual's opinion and move forward and overcome the odds. And you had a very similar situation, not 24 years ago, but just in the more recent years, where a doctor with a more negative mindset said something to you and it triggered a little spark inside. And I want to kick it off with that. Talk me through where it all began.
Oh man, you bring me back to days. So imagine June or July 2012. After years of playing football, played collegiate football, I got up, ballooned all the way up to about 360, 70, 80 pounds, somewhere around there. My life of football, being a football player, has been over a few years, but I'm still living those unhealthy habits without the working out part. I'm selling shoes shoes and suits at a men's warehouse, and I found myself sitting in front of a doctor. Being on your feet all this time for a long time, 40, 50 hours a week. I had felt this sharp pain in my hip, which led me to go to a doctor, which led me to go to another doctor and then another doctor. So about the time I got to the third doctor, which was an orthopedic surgeon, I'm thinking I'm going to have to get a hip replacement or something. And, I'm sitting down. I'm like, well, what is it, doc? Like, is it all the years I was playing football? You know, what is it? He's like, Mr. Evans, you're fat. And I'm like, what? Like, you're fat. So he goes on this whole rant and tangent about me being fat. I need to lose weight. I need to start walking. And sarcastically, I said to him, like, I'm going to run a marathon. And he laughs at me, like the biggest belly laugh like you ever seen somebody laugh. Like I was a comedian, like I was telling a joke. And he was like, you run a marathon? Like, that's the most stupidest thing I ever heard in my life. So I was like, screw you, man. I'm going to run this marathon. And like after um, about another 5 to 10 minutes of like arguing with this dude, I walked out not walked out, but like stormed out the doctor's office, got in my car, and as I was driving home, I seen a running shoe store. I made a U-turn, went in there, running shoe store, and told them I need shoes and I need them now because I'm gonna run a marathon.
I love that, bro. I love that so much. And I remember hearing, I think I listened to you on another pod a couple days ago, and you were saying It was that person at the shoe store that gave you a little bit of guidance and realigned you with where it all needs to begin and how you need to start piecing that puzzle together. But, we all have those moments, right? Where
Hmm.
something wakes us up in life or something triggers an emotion or a spark or a little bit of motivation. And, we all do it on the bloody 31st of December, don't we? Like, yeah, New Year's coming up and I've got some big plans. I've got some things that I want to conquer. But quite often it's, I've spoken a lot about this idea of progress through purpose. And for me, everything I'm doing at the moment, like I've never been a runner. And for me, the idea of 5Ks was mammoth until 14 weeks ago,
Hmm.
where I started my journey. And because it's been so aligned with purpose and doing something that means more than just to me, but to a community of people who are, I guess, united by a common cause, I've found that progress strives because of that purpose. And I can imagine for you, this is not just one of those moments where you go buy a set of running shoes and, you have 2 or 3 runs in the space of 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden the running shoes find their way to the back of the shoe cupboard. And you're just back into that life. You literally changed your life in the space of a few moments. So where does it go from there? You pick up a set of shoes and do you start pounding the pavement? Do you start planning? Talk me through that
Oh
phase
man,
part of it.
I got those shoes and I got on the treadmill. I turned that bad boy up to like 7 and I felt miserably, man. I couldn't even run longer than 15 seconds, man. I felt like the treadmill was rejecting me. Like I felt like the treadmill was having an allergic reaction to my body.
It ain't easy,
And
hey?
and I just felt miserably. And like it was hard, man. It was hard. And something that's brought me back to this whole thing, something I have tattooed on my right wrist. And it's his favorite quote from Frederick Douglass, and it's, without struggle, there will be no progress. And I was like, no struggle, no progress. So, I had to readjust what I thought this was gonna be. Like I said, my days of football prime was behind me. And I just had to like readjust and rethink this thing. So taking it slow. All right, I can only run 15 seconds. Let's see if I can do 30 the next day. Let's see if I can do a minute next week, and so on and so forth. Until like when you look at me now, I ran anywhere between 4 and 5 marathons last year. So many
That's
of them, I didn't
insane.
forgot how many I didn't ran.
Man, I congratulate you so much on that because for the common folk who don't run, the idea of running a marathon is mammoth, but I think
Hmm.
you appreciate it even more when you're on that journey and
Yeah,
you hit that long run or those big Ks and you go, fuck, this isn't easy.
it's not easy.
Marathons aren't easy, bro. You know, and I think to run 4 or 5 in a year means that you're training consistently and you're putting in consistent work. So, mate, a huge congratulations to you. But where does this then get to that point where, you're obviously progressing and anyone knows when you put work and time into something, you progress, you get better, you learn and you grow. But when does this become, there's actually a business or an idea in this? And I've heard the origin story of the name 300 pounds and running. Talk us
Mhm.
through that and where that persona and that business was born.
Oh man. Um, I think that's a good question. So 300 pounds of running, the name came from a old NWA song called 100 Miles and Running. And I was like, I love that song with a passion. And I was like, you know what? I'm 300 plus pounds and I'm going to be running. Like it's 300 pounds of running, baby. So it more or less just came from that, man. It came easy. That was the only name I thought of when I was like, I'm doing this thing. And it just stuck. It's a household name now.
I love it, bro. I love it. And for you, like that journey did it just start with documenting the journey more so than anything?
Yeah. So, I bought the running shoes, ran, talked about it. And, it was first like just a regular blog because, I started this in like 2012, man. So, I was like, I'll start a blog because that was the thing to do in 2012 was to blog about it and things of that sort. So, I just started blogging about it of like my daily happenings of what it meant to be a runner, a fat runner at that. And then like people start catching on. Like I started off with just like my mom, my sister, and some of my friends like reading it
Yeah.
to like at one point, 40, 50,000 page views a month.
That's bro, that is awesome. And I can channel that because my mum comments a love heart and tells me I'm handsome on everything I post on IG. So I know what it's like to begin with that family love, but to grow from something more. And the thing I love about your movement is, if people go and, I hope they do go and jump on your IG page whilst listening or after listening to this episode. And at the top, it says, "This ain't a weight loss journey." And I love that
Hmm.
because I think for me, I wasn't on a weight loss journey when I started, but the byproduct of running and moving your body and pursuing something that is great for your health, there's just so many positive byproducts, whether that be mentally, physically, or in, whatever spiritual element you're searching for. It's just one of the amazing things that happens is you're getting healthier and you're getting better at everything you do in your life through running. It is such a sport that just really helps in all aspects of your life. Talk to me through the positive benefits for you. Like, was this life changing, not just in the way that it gave you something new to chase and a new goal, a new purpose, but does this just level you up mentally?
Yeah. When you just talk about running in general, like I'm a better person when I'm running compared to when I'm not running, right? Like it's so much, I think about like this, like I'm not really a spiritual person, I'm not really a religious person, but I think when I'm out running and just hearing the rhythms of like my feet hitting the ground, listening to myself breathe, I feel like I'm one with my maker, whatever that may be.
I get that.
So it's bigger than me. Like me doing this is bigger than just like a fat man running. Like it's bigger than that.
That's good to hear. Talk to me through the first marathon. I'm embarking.
The first marathon.
So I'm 14 weeks into training for my first. I'm 6 weeks out. And like I started at 5Ks, right? So I remember
Mhm.
my first long run was 7.5. And I was like amping myself up. I was listening to music in the car, like, come on, you got to get this. You got to get this. And now for me now, like I've conquered a 30 along the way, but bro, like 30Ks, it's mentally, it's a fight.
Yeah.
No, you're sitting there and you're running, and me and my mate are running, like talking some David Goggins shit to each other, like stay hard, motherfucker, like keep on keeping on, like trying to amp each other up. But to get to that first 42, I can imagine you just fight, what's 42, 26 miles for you guys, but you would just fight so many demons and mental battles along the way. What was that like?
I think it's the same thing. It is fighting demons. It's fighting the inner voice. Like running a marathon is synonymous to like your body telling you to stop, or your mind telling you to stop, but your heart is like, no, fuck that, keep going.
Yeah,
So it's a constant battle of like the heart and the mind of no, you need to stop, and no, I need to finish this shit. That amongst it, you have to find different ways and different tricks to like really keep yourself motivated. Whether it's light pole to light pole, whether it's talking to random people, all of this stuff, right? And I remember like from my first marathon, there's this fucking bus, the SAG vehicle. It's like the supplies of SAG means like supplies and something else. But like this is the vehicle that lags in the back, pick up injured runners and things of that sort. And I remember, like, yeah, I'm at the end of the race. I'm in the back of the pack, and like he's picking up people, and like this fucker just kept antagonizing me, like, "Hey, big man, like you want to ride? Like you need to go ahead and get up on this bus." And all this other stuff, like to the point I was like, yo, like leave me the fuck alone. Like
yeah.
I don't need you.
How
I
how
don't
long is
need
he
you, right?
hassling you for?
The last 6 miles.
Oh my God. So you're in pain and you're like,
Yeah.
get out of my fucking head and leave me alone.
Yes.
I just want to do this. Bro, it's
Yes.
like, it's almost creepy, isn't it? It's like if you're a kid and he was asking you to get in the bus, like just go
Yes.
to jail, motherfucker. Leave me alone.
Exactly.
Yeah, he played.
And I remember it was a hard race. It was a rough race. Um, I remember when this lady giving me like a handful of Jolly Ranchers where I didn't have anything. Like I ran out of race snacks, out of water, and like she just ran next to me with like two handfuls of like Jolly Ranchers. It's like, here you go. And she's
Hey,
like,
what's a Jolly Rancher?
so Jolly Rancher is like this hard candy. It's like hard
Okay.
flavored candy. Um, and she gave me a bunch of them, and I just sucked on those all the way to the end of the race, man.
Yeah, you need something, right? And for me, like as I talk to more and more people who have run marathons or run crazy distances, there's one or two things that happens at the end of that race, right? You get the people that finish and go, I love that. And for all the struggle, I just want to do
Mhm.
that again. When's the next opportunity? Then there's the ones that go, there's probably three types of people that go, fuck, that's the first and last time I'll ever run a marathon. Then there's, I reckon, the third person that after goes, I'll never do that again. But once the pain wears off, they're signing up. They're looking
Mhm.
for the next race. Who are you?
I got home. I got home from that marathon and cried like a baby in the bathtub as everything hurt during my ice bath, and I was like, I don't think I'm doing this again. Like I'm done. Like I'm hanging it up. And I really got like real bad post marathon depression,
Yeah.
like or like post race depression, or like the what they call like the marathon blues. I got real bad depressed, and it took me about a month and a half to like really shake that off and get back into running again.
Yeah.
And then when I got back into it, I was like, oh, like this is it.
I love that. Because that's the hardest thing, I think. Once you've accomplished something, finding the next goal. And
Yeah,
one thing I've said to a lot of people for the first time in a long time, because I competed a lot as a kid, but it's been a good like 10 years since I've competitively pushed myself in any sport. You lose that, like when you don't have that competitive drive, it feels like something's missing, right?
yeah,
When you're
it
chasing something,
does.
it's a good feeling. It's a
It
good feeling.
does. And it's like I'm addicted to the journey. And if like you could see, like I don't even know if you can see it without me
Yeah,
pulling
I
out
can
the
see
medals,
that.
but like all
For all
the
of you listening,
race
there's some
medals,
serious medals there.
like over the 100 races that I've completed, right? Um, but it really was like I need to do more of this, and I need to have plans on top of plans, and so on and so forth. So much so that I just started race stacking. So like this is how I got to 4 or 5 marathons in a year. It's because when you always got a race to train for,
Yeah,
like you just don't stop.
yeah.
You just don't stop.
I think that's great advice for anyone who, whether it be running or anything in life. If there's a goal ahead and there's something you're looking forward to, it's so much easier to stay on track. You don't not get out of bed in the morning. Sometimes it happens, but I think it just gives you like an anchor.
Yeah.
Talk to me before the first marathon. What was your longest run? Like longest training run?
Um, 22.
22. So that's pretty close. How did that 22 feel?
Hellacious. It felt like I didn't know if I was going to do it or not.
Yeah. And I think that's the
So
scary
22
thing about
miles.
it's a
I'm just
long
trying to do the so it's a
calculation.
35K.
Well, that's going to be my longest pre.
Hmm.
So I'm probably 3 weeks out from that run, and I'm nervous as hell. But you know the thing I love.
What?
We've got a place. So I live in Wollongong, which is an hour south of Sydney, Australia, and we've got a little like burger place here. It's called Chico's. So it's all chicken schnitzel burgers, like all snitty burgers, best chips on the planet. And after a long run day, I go straight there and I get the biggest burger and chips you've ever seen in your life. I don't care if it takes me an hour to eat it. I sit there and I eat it.
Hmm.
And there's so much joy in that. So that's what I look forward to every long run day. It's like I get to eat that straight after. It's the best. It's the best. For you, like post run, what you go to?
Carrot cake, hands down.
Okay. I like
Yes,
that. There could be a bit
it's
of that
the
in the mix on the day.
it's the healthiest cake you ever have in your life.
It sounds the healthiest, right? So through the timeline of this, you said this all began in 2012. The journey started then. We're now in 2020. This is a good 8 years of you getting after it, running, bettering yourself as an athlete, as a runner. But obviously, it's been the last couple years that this brand has really taken off for you, and you've had some. You're getting good exposure out of the blog, but it looks like you've had some really good video press and some great articles written about you. Talk me through that feeling of, you've been hustling for so long. And, I know as a creator in the early stages, I've been doing this for under a year. When you start to feel things changing and you feel that shift in momentum where you're starting to get noticed and people are starting to, I guess, credit you for your work, what does that feel like?
It feels good. It feels validating, man. Because, like, yes, I have been at this for 8 years, and the thing about consistency is like, or just success is just consistency over time.
Definitely.
So the thing is, like, regardless of what it is being consistent long enough for people to like see you. There's always this phrase of like overnight success is not really an overnight success. It's all of the years that go into getting there. And for me, it's no different. It's no different at all. I put in years doing this. It's been a bumpy road. It's been a bumpy ride. A lot of like questioning whether or not this thing really matters. And then 8 years later, you know, truthfully, like 6 years, 6 to 8 years later, to now reap the benefits of all the momentum that you've been putting into this thing, like feels
Yeah.
validating.
Oh, 100%. I can imagine. I look forward to that day where I feel that myself. And, you know, anyone knows, like I know on a day where I go out and do a long run or there's a big run involved in that week, that's a hard day to like have time to do anything else. It's time on the feet. It does take a lot of your day. Do you have some people helping you with all your business stuff? Because you'd be busy.
As of lately, yes. But before, no. Like I did everything. I wrote all the blog posts. I contacted all the people on the podcast, any and everything. I done. I shipped the shirts out, all of that. It wasn't until recently that I just hired some people to come onto the team to help relieve some of this stuff. And it's all a struggle. Like I have actually have 4 people on my team right now.
That's
Um,
cool.
have a business manager who helped with all the finances and like making sure that I'm paying taxes and things of that sort on time.
Yeah.
Um, an executive assistant that manages my emails and to check and say, hey, you received the email from Brad in June. You haven't responded. Are you still interested in this?
I love that. Hey, shout out to your assistant for coming in clutch when we needed it. Hey.
Right. So I have somebody helping with that. I do a lot of virtual races. So I have an assistant who's helping out with that. And then I have somebody who helps with, you know, making sure, my social media posts go out on time and things of that sort. So like I have a bunch of people and I'm still constantly building a team. And I think that's even a hard struggle in itself to like do everything. Like I learned a lot of school, like a lot of skills. I went to school to
Yeah,
learn different skills, took classes, like everything from like taking a photography class to taking like a social media marketing class to learning Facebook ads. Like I did everything, right? Like I'm like the utility knife.
that's
So
awesome.
now to like reap these benefits. And now, people coming to me and say, hey, like, do you do consulting? Like, would you be able to consult me with this? And me be like, okay, here's my rate, like, take it or leave it. But also being able to like better my platform and take it to the next level where I want it to be.
I love that. And where is that next level? Like for you, is there a goal in mind now for this brand and for you personally?
Absolutely. Well, first things first, I'm currently in the process of selling the book idea to some press, to
Ooh,
some
I like it.
publishing outlet. So that's one thing that I'm working on, getting my first book out there, and let that be a national, worldwide seller. Um, what else? 100+ thousand members in Slow AF Run Club. One of my big ideas or one of my big goals is to have, like I said, hundreds of thousands of people that's been back of the pack who've been taunted, who like just been an afterthought when it comes to racing, for us to have our own race, or to like go to Berlin, London, Boston Marathon and take up space. Like I can see thousands of people running in the back of the pack with Slow F shirts on. Like
Dude,
that
that's
would be
so
the
cool.
goal.
That's epic. I love that. And that's where, for you, I can imagine that's where you feel like you're making real change. Like that is worth more than the paycheck a lot of the time, right? Where you feel that you're actually doing something for these people in their lives that they won't forget. They'll always remember that being a part of a community where they felt they could get better, they felt they were accepted, and they felt that that was the first time they were ever motivated to keep moving.
Yeah. And it's all that, and it's all hard, Brad. Like when you're doing all this by yourself, like the shit is hard. Like
Oh,
to go out and like not have a photographer and like take pictures of yourself on a timer and like figure out the right angle just so you can get that one shot so you can post on Instagram. And then like people, at one point I was getting 200 new DMs a day of
yeah,
like,
wow.
hey, you inspirational, hey, we would like to work with you, or just like whatever. And then like trying to manage a community of 6,000 plus members, write a blog post, you know, uh, publish a podcast episode. Like all that shit is a lot and it's hard work. And like only thing you really want in life is just to be validated from people to say, like, hey, like I enjoyed this thing.
I hear that.
So yeah, like it's one thing to get paid for it and do and get paid, of course, like get paid to do the things you love, because it's a lot of work and a lot of people take that stuff for granted. But it's also the satisfaction of like having raving people that believe in the idea that you have and be able to like cape for that. Meaning like they put on their own Superman or Superwoman cape to tell the whole world like this man has this idea that's going to change the world, and like I'm a part of it and you should be a part of it as well.
I love to hear that. I love to hear it. You said in there, you said two things. The first thing I noticed was about the self timer. We had our own self timer moment before we started the podcast. I said to Martinus, I said, I'm no Joe Rogan yet, so I've got to throw this thing on self timer and get a thumbnail. Um, the second thing was you said about brands saying they wanted to work with you and collaborating with certain people. I can see you're repping the Three Stripes at the moment, the Adidas
Hmm.
brand. You've been doing a bit of work with them, hey?
Yeah. Three stripes love me and I love Three Stripes.
Hey, how surreal is that to say like, because, there are, I think there are two big brands in the world in the running space. There's a few,
Hmm.
um, but you're repping one of them. What's that feel like?
Oh man, it's surreal. I think the most surreal part is like going on set for a commercial and they know more about you than what you think you even know about yourself.
Yeah,
Like I think that's hilarious or interesting, but also like to know that all of this hard work you put in to see like the big dogs in the field recognize you, right? And just be like, yo, like we see what you're doing. We want to amplify this, and whatever and however we can do to help, let us know.
you know what
And
I love?
that's amazing.
I love that play that you can see those big brands beginning to make. Because, for so long, we all look up to the athletes of the world. Like you said, you used to play football in college and high school. And, I look up to athletes. I look up to guys like LeBron and, these guys that are, figures we aspire to be like and we
Hmm.
aspire to perform like in our given fields. But I think there's a real play and something to be said for these bigger brands to find more, I guess, down to earth stories. Guys like yourself who aren't professionally paid athletes on a team with someone managing every step they take and massaging you every night and cooking your dinner for you, making sure your veggies are prepped to recover the next day. There's something to be said for those guys that are in the becomings of an athlete, walking those similar steps and after those certain journeys, but are maybe more connected to the individuals at home that are just trying to stay fit and healthy. Do you see those brands making a big play in that direction?
It makes more sense. It makes more sense to do that. And here's why. Um, we're a lot more accessible than like LeBron. So
Yeah.
like as I'm getting 200, like I said, at one point I'm getting 200 DMs a day and I'm responding to them. Like try DM and LeBron and see
Can
if
I
you
just
get a
say
response.
on that, I'll interject. Can you get your assistant to go to go hook up with him? Because bro, he still hasn't replied to mine. So
So of course, like it's the accessibility, right? I think the
definitely.
other thing is that marathon running is an interesting thing to be in because it's an individual sport that people like do as a thing, as like a part of another thing, right? So like as an individual sport, we're racing against our own time, but we're doing it amongst 30, 40,000 people all at once.
Definitely.
So it's like this thing of like community that happens. Like I'm a runner, you a runner, you get it, right? So when you talk about horror stories on like how to find a bathroom or like how you're going to use the bathroom
Yeah.
running 42K, like
Yeah.
that's a horror story, right? So we're able to share these things. And I think that the other thing is that everyone wants to like see themselves and in themselves. Like only thing we really want to do be able to do is be represented.
Definitely.
So everybody can't be LeBron, and like the representation of LeBron isn't in everybody. But you can see a Martinus Evans and see a 350-pound man run multiple marathons and be like, well, fuck, like his big ass is out there doing it. Well, shit, like what's stopping me?
100%. And I love that you said that because that's been my whole journey. The reason I done what I done was I had I'm not sure if I filled you in on the story, but I had some bleeding lungs with my cystic fibrosis. So I was in hospital in July. I think it was mid-July. I was in hospital in the emergency department. My lungs were bleeding for the third day in a row. And I said to my dad, we were looking back on an old Instagram photo I'd posted to him. He was running across the line of doing a promo shoot with a beer in his hand. And he wasn't a runner. He was just a fit dude who played football over here in Australia. And he set out to do a 212-kilometer run over 3 days for Cystic Fibrosis Australia. And we are having a laugh at this photo. And I said to my dad, you know what? I'm going to run a marathon before the end of the year. And this is like 5 minutes before that, I was coughing up blood.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, you reckon you can do it? And I was like, 100%. And I was like, and I want to do it because not everyone, like everyone with cystic fibrosis, has the opportunity to do something positive to change their health. But maybe not every one of them has the mindset to overcome the situation they're in right now. And if I can show it's possible, other people will do it too. And it's
Right.
been the most amazing journey just connecting with kids that are in hospital with issues I've had, and they've seen I've come out the other side, and them and their families are excited watching the training videos, knowing what's possible. And that is the best feeling, where you feel you can connect with that audience and that group of people that didn't know it was possible for them. And I can imagine for you what you're doing and the reason you've been so successful is that reason. And amongst many, but that reason where there is a whole market of people there who just want to know that they've got it in them too.
Yeah. And, and I think here's the thing, right? Like I said, I've ran over 100 races, and each medal means something to me. But I think what means the most is like when I'm running and I'm like struggling through a whole thing. Like I don't know if I'm gonna finish this race, and then somebody comes to me with like the brightest eyes and be like, "Holy fuck! Like you're Martinez Evans! Like you're 300 pounds and running!" Like Like, you don't know how much you've helped me in some of the darkest parts of my life. And it's like, really? And they're like, yes. And like, we have this whole conversation. And I think that's the thing that really matters the most to me. It's this whole thing of like, you don't know who you're aspiring, you don't know who's watching, but they're watching.
Yeah, big respect to that. Big respect to that. Hey, you said over 100 races now. What's been the favorite? What's been the hardest? And which one haven't you done yet that you're looking forward to conquering?
Oh man. So here's a few things. With COVID-19, you might know her as Miss Rona,
Yeah.
as we like to call her. Miss Rona is, the bane of my existence because this year, with me being with the three stripes, I was supposed to run Boston, Berlin, London,
Oh,
and I think Tel Aviv.
oh, that would have been insane.
So I've already ran Berlin before. Um, I have a love-hate relationship with Berlin because, I ran it last year and it was a very tough race. It was rain, it was humid, it got cold and all these other things, and I didn't get a chance to cross the finish line like I want to. So that's the race that I'm looking forward for as redemption. Um, Favorite race out of all the races, a race that is my favorite is one of the ones I didn't finish. Big Sur Marathon. Big Sur Marathon has an elevation of like 6,000 feet.
Oh,
It's a very
crazy.
tough race. It's a point to point race, but I had so much fun on there. And they have a very strict cutoff. I didn't make it, but I had so much fun. Um, Other races, New York City Marathon. I love that marathon so much
That would be
because
a real journey, wouldn't it?
yes, New York City is by far the greatest marathon and race that I've ever been a part of.
So you haven't done London yet, but you were supposed to, weren't you?
Yeah, I'm supposed to do it London.
I feel like
Um,
London would be on a similar level, right?
yeah, so you have like the big six. So London, Boston, Berlin, New York City, Chicago, and what's the other one? I'm missing one, but it's called the World Majors, right? Um, and like those are like by far per capita like the biggest races in the world. So like this is where you see like the professional runners come and race and for like the big prizes and things of that sort. So that usually bring out a lot of people as well.
Yeah.
And those racers are just so fun and it's so energetic.
It's cool that you've been able to travel the world and tackle some of these races. Like, where do you first, because, I think most people start locally, right? They start something that's close to home or, not too far from, and it's your first race. And there's so much hype and, nerve and anxiety leading up to that. You just want to be close to home to get it done. But when do you
Right.
actually say, I'm going to start getting on planes to go run some marathons?
I would say after the first one. After the first one, you be like, I want to get on planes. And here's why. Like throughout this whole process, a running journey is not in a vacuum. So you're going to post about it on social media. You're going to find and follow other people who are also in running circles. You're
Yeah.
going to join Facebook groups. You'll hopefully, you'll join Slow F Run Club. And right. So you're going to meet some of these people online and be like, man, you're cool. What races are you running? Like, I want to run together. Let's do this together. Like, let's do these hard things together.
Yeah.
And like, when that happens, you're like, oh, I'm traveling.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
then, and next thing you know, you hear about like, the 50 Staters Club where people run marathons in all 50 states in the United States, or like the five continent club. I think it's five continents, or the five or the six continent club, where they run a marathon on each continent in the world, right? It's like you start getting to these things like, holy hell, like you ran a marathon a week for 3 years straight. Like,
That's
what the
insane.
fuck? Like, that's insane. And like, you start to hear these stories and, talk to other people about their journeys and like be able to talk shop about running and things of that sort that you want to travel. You want to be out in the wild to be able to experience this stuff with other things, with other people.
Dude, we had a guy here in Sydney. His name's Ned Brockman. He's starting to get a bit of national press at the moment because he's just finished 50 marathons in 50 days.
Hmm.
And he was literally working every day from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and as an electrician on site. And I've never seen a guy run a marathon with so much energy in my life. Like, he was pumped in every one of them.
Hmm.
And I couldn't believe he finished it. Like, I thought, what an outstanding achievement. And he ran them quick. And like, it's like you said, when you start to get connected to more people through this space, you realize pretty quickly, God, how much there is out there to challenge yourself, how much there is, and how many people you want to run with, you want to experience different races with. It just fuels you. Like, I'm so excited for my event, but I'm so excited for post event. Like, what's
Yeah,
next? Like, what can I tackle? What other things can I look at? And that's the beauty of this.
absolutely. And I think that's the main thing. And I think that that's the unfortunate thing about coronavirus. You know, as a runner and like just seeing race after race get canceled and
Yeah.
drop like flies. For me, of course, getting the medal is a good thing, but being able to travel the world, see new places, talk to new people, and all under the guise of like running 26.2 miles
Yeah.
is like the greatest feeling in the world.
Definitely, bro. Definitely. Well, I'm yet to experience it, but very soon. Hey, you're in San Fran, aren't you?
Yes.
And what's it like to run around there? I can imagine lots of elevation.
Hilly is all hell.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. So here in Wollongong, to give you, I guess, a geography lesson on our area, we're literally between the mountains and the sea.
Hmm.
So it's probably, I reckon, there's very few places in the world where the sea and the mountains so closely meet and everything is just in between it. And unless you really hit the trails, though, there is an elevation. So unless you hit the mountains, a lot of what we have here along the coastline, and we've probably got 20 beaches in the space of 20 kilometers,
Hmm.
is just flat track. So we hit a lot of flat track in our training during the week. And, I run with a group called the Active Boys Run Club, and all of our runs are really flat. And for the first time, I really ventured out to hit some elevation, not on purpose, just on like pure ridiculousness of not planning the route for my first 30K run. Oh, I tell you what, the back end of that run, Jesus, my quads, my hemis, I was cooked. I was in a world of pain, and it just gives you, I guess, perspective. Those guys that run trails or run some serious elevation, there's huge respect to that.
Yeah, because it's no joke.
Yeah, no,
It's
definitely not.
no joke to all think there's all it's all fun and games until like your chest is tight and you feel like your lungs are on fire from like running up a hill.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Hey, look, I want to let you get back to your day. This has been an incredible chat. And when I say get back to your day, actually get to your evening, because it is very late afternoon over there in San Fran, early morning here in Australia. But it's been an absolute pleasure. And I want to make sure that people become a part of your community, are able to connect with you. Are you on Strava?
Yes, I'm on Strava.
So for all you runners, go give this man some kudos. That's what we like. There's no feeling. So I said there's no better feeling than getting some kudos on Strava after you've conquered a big ass run. There's nothing like it.
Right.
But then on Instagram, go and follow 300 pounds in running. You are Run Slow AF for the Run Club. And is
Yep.
there anywhere else these people can connect with you?
SlowEFRunClub.com.
Awesome. And you got a podcast too. You got two podcasts, yeah?
Yes. We got the long run with Martinus and Latoya and the 300 pounds of running podcast all on the same feed. So if you check out the 300 pounds of running podcast network, you'll be able to enjoy two podcasts for the price of one.
I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been my absolute pleasure to sit here across from this man and chat running, chat life, and chat inspirational story. And I guess the message is get out, get started, and find something you love. Because when you push yourself to that area you're not comfortable, that's when you experience all the great things that life has to offer.
Thank you. It was amazing, man.